Welcome to Truth Telling with Elizabeth D'Alto, the podcast dedicated to focusing on the truth that is always evolving within us and around us, where we explore the potentiality of truth as a highly esteemed value at a time in history when most people have more on their plates than any one human should. If you're new to me, full expression is my jam. Some words people have used to describe me range from speaker, trainer, coach, healer, writer, spiritual advisor, teacher, podcaster, and someone even called me their soul Sherpa once. I'm less concerned with titles or labels and more interested in results, change, and creating a world we want to, can, and are proud to live in. A kinder, gentler, more curious, collaborative, reverent world where people respect each other's backgrounds, experiences, and truths. They trust in themselves, in life, and recognize that we need each other. And they know how to cultivate healthy relationships to true power, not the very unhealthy kind of power our current culture is predicated upon. Speaking of our culture, there's a lot of noise and ignorance in our current culture, and this show aims to cut through that by exploring the truths of a diverse range of incredible voices. From authors, artists, creatives, and educators to activists, speakers, and those in various scientific and esoteric fields, our guests hail from cultures and countries all over the world. We post a new interview every Monday, and if you want to keep up with the show notes and quotes from our guests, you can follow me on Instagram at Elizabeth D'Alto. You can expect a wide range of topics when you tune into this show. Everything from health, communication, money, success, parenting, desire, sex, love, and spirituality, to making pivots and transitions in life, and topics related to psychology, storytelling, gender and race issues, emotional intelligence, activism, advocacy, and much more. A few disclaimers. No episode of the show is meant for everyone, and every episode is meant for whoever needs it on the right day at the right time. Not all guest views will reflect my own, and that's intentional. We don't learn, grow, heal, or improve by staying in our comfortable bubbles with all of our people who look, think, or live exactly how we do. If you love what you hear and find it useful and inspiring, the best way to show your appreciation is to share the episode, subscribe to the show, and leave us a rating and review wherever you listen in from. Thank you so much for being here with me. Here we go. Hello and welcome to episode number 295 of Truth Telling with Elizabeth D'Alto. Today, we are talking about quantum consciousness. Oh yeah. We are getting into it. We are going on an exploration of something I don't talk about a lot: quantum physics, consciousness, the holographic nature of the universe. And listen, some folks are really going to resonate with this, and others might be like, what the actual hell are you all talking about, Elizabeth? So I want to remind you, I'm not here to hit the mark every episode with every person. I'm here to follow my own curiosity and take you on the adventure with me. Whatever lands for you, and whatever doesn't, and that is totally okay. Our guest today is Christina Rassmusen, a dear friend and repeat guest, and the basis for our interview is her new book, which is called Where Did You Go? Her big truth was how people who are made the same way can have such opposing ideas. From there, we talked about life, death, creation, and seeing this reality we live in for what it actually is. We talked about synchronicity and the holographic principle, immersing ourselves in a world of unexpected experiences every day, and how to respect people's foundational beliefs, obviously, as long as they aren't causing harm. We got into the observer effect, how grief is an evolutionary experience, and despite what many of us have been taught, why it is okay to pick and choose to create your own foundational beliefs that will create happiness in your life. This is a very juicy and very interesting interview. So enjoy, share, maybe listen more than once, have a conversation with your friends about it, as I always recommend and suggest. The show notes will be at untameyourself.com/295. And if you would like to receive weekly email notifications with show notes and resources and the links to everything that comes up in these interviews, get on that specific list over at wildsoulmovement.com/podcast. All right, y'all, let's get into it. Y'all, I'm here with Christina Rasmussen. She's back. It's been a couple of years. We were just having, Christina is one of these people, I think you know this, and I think this is mutual. It might not be. You can tell me if it's not. I feel like a dear, deep, close connection to you. We've barely ever spent any time together. We'll message here and there occasionally, but it's not it's just a special
Soul
connection. Yeah, it's literally just what it is. It's inexplicable.
Yeah.
Not extremely validated by like time on the field here on Earth, but you know, who knows? And so before we were just like catching up a little, and I'm like, "How are you?" And she says, I wrote it down. I'm, you know, just constantly immersed in a world of unexpected experiences every day. And I'm like, let me just hit record because this is my life, and this is I'm with you, and I hear you, and it's just surrender and trust and what's happening. And you were saying like reorienting my brain and rewiring my brain, and I'm literally minutes before this interview started was having a text conversation with a man I've been involved with for like 9 months on and off, just kind of clarifying like where I'm at now. And
Mm-hmm.
and it was he was having difficulty receiving it because I literally just cleared a whole bunch of things, and like I'm showing up differently as of a week ago, you know?
Yeah.
And I do that. Not everyone does that, but
No.
so when you started talking, I'm like, we just need to hit the record button. The conversation has begun.
And Elizabeth, if only we could help people glimpse at their life from this unexpected place without a routine-based experience of repeating your day, your words, your thoughts. And I have goosebumps just saying that. And this is actually my first time really living my life completely from that place. And it's not, I have to be honest and say, I've always tried to get here. I have done really well with the conscious habitual change over time, but with the new book and the premise of what I'm proposing, the universe literally took me and said, you asked for this.
You asked.
So we're going to take you and we're going to throw you out into the world. And then you're going to just bounce and bounce and bounce and find your footing. And I'm enjoying the bouncing so much because like it's not, it's of course, it feels unsafe sometimes. And the brain will say, danger, danger, be careful.
Totally.
But this is actually a very fun way to live and to be in a life that is so short, and to when you look at this life as an illusion, as just a projection of reality, and that you have the ability to do whatever you want with it. It's a game.
Yeah. We're 1,000% on the same page, and like on our paths and how we've arrived there have been different. I'm excited to hear about that. And, again, also before the interview started, I think, I don't really plan it. I have like a couple questions and then we just go. But
Thank
literally
goodness.
the question in my mind, I was like, I really want to explore with her less the details of the book. Because, I always do that. I'm like, if people want the book, just go get the friggin' book, right?
Sure.
But more the premise. How did you arrive? How did you land at this premise for this book? And then the process. And I also kind of want to do just like a little disclaimer / caveat for people listening that we'll talk about certainly some esoteric and quote out there things during this interview. We're not trying to convince you of anything. You don't have to be on board, but just like, take it in like everything we always talk about here. Roll around with it. See if anything resonates for you. Maybe you'll want to dive deeper into Christina's work. Maybe not. But it's going to be a really fun, really interesting exploration. So I'm excited for that. So I've been asking everyone to focus a little more on embodiment this year. How's your body today? What's going on?
Well, I actually said something really nice to my body last night for the first time in my life.
Really?
Like we're connected in this conversation, like obviously kind of connected outside of this reality. And for the first time, I was actually, Hay House sent me Louise Hay's book that was released. I think it's called, I think Robert Holden wrote it, and all the best writings of Louise Hay, and it was called Trust Your Life. I'm sorry, I can't remember. And she talks about affirmations and so on, and I'm lying in bed and I'm reading this just before I go to sleep, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to talk to my body for the first time in my life. And I can't believe you just asked me this. Of course you would, right? And I say, body, I said, I love you so much, and I'm sorry if I ever mistreat you. I'm just grateful for having me here in this place in my life, and that was it. And for anyone out there, this was my first time speaking out loud to my body. And this just happened last night. So my body is grateful for this interaction and it's feeling really good. So yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then, and maybe this is the premise of the book, maybe this is something else, but you might have already shared it, but what is a truth that's having a big impact on your life right now?
You know, it is mind-blowing to me how people made the same way, we are made the same way, have such opposing ideas and beliefs. Elizabeth, it has blown me away. Like, it's like that joke, that dress, is it a brown dress or is it a blue dress? Like, do you remember that?
Yeah.
And like, I don't remember the exact colors, but some people really so brown and some people really so blue. And there was nothing you could do to change their mind. And you're looking at it, it's brown. And someone's like, no, it's blue. And that could be your father, your mother, your brother. And they can't see the same as you. And we live in this polarity. And I have to say, everything changes just understanding that philosophy. Because when you're talking to someone and you're telling them about something and they're not getting it, it's not their fault. They just can't.
They just
see
can't.
What you see.
Totally.
It's not personal. They just can't.
They just can't.
Yeah.
And it's so liberating to let go of needing them or even wanting them to.
They can't. It's like asking a table to be a chair.
Yeah.
Asking the brown dress to be blue. Like, it won't happen. And you know, I am 46 years old. I celebrate age. I don't hide it. When my husband was dying, he used to be pissed off at everyone complaining about age. And he was like, I wish I could turn 50. I wish I could turn 40. He died at 35. Mm-hmm. So I celebrate every year. And I'm raising my daughters the same way. But like, it's you have to start looking at the world as different from you. Mm-hmm. And when you approach that from that place, I think everyone's going to be more your friend than your enemy. 100%. I know it's a different, what a concept though, right? Seeing everyone as different brings them closer to you versus trying to see them as the same as you or trying to make them the same as you.
100%. And you know, this always happens. I batch my interviews together and fairly often, and you all pick your own times. Like, I send you a link, we set it up. So like, I don't plan who I interview, you self-select. But inevitably it happens that the conversations that occur on the same day somehow are weaving into each other. And my first interview of today, and I don't know what order they're going up in at the time that we're talking about this, was Michelle Cassandra Johnson. And we were talking about this, how in yoga and mindfulness spaces, people like to talk about oneness, but our culture isn't practicing it. It's not set up for people to have that experience. But what you're saying is an element of the practice of oneness is to go, we're so different, but we're still connected. And then your choice, right?
And you understand them. If you can see their differences and say, okay, they can't see that color, right? Mm-hmm. They can't be a table. They can't understand your non-religious beliefs, and whatever it is that we are experiencing. All of a sudden, it's not personal. It's just that's the way they're wired. That's the way they're made. That's why their experiences in life have made them, and that's it. And that has been. So when you ask that question, Elizabeth, that has been the most liberating thing in the last 3 weeks. Just everything is changing, plus as that as well. It's incredible.
Not needing or wanting people to be different so that I can be okay or feel okay or have the experience I need to have. I agree with you. One of the most liberating lessons in my whole life.
It's amazing.
And it sounds great, but it takes hella practice.
It took 46 years. That's what I'm saying. I'm not 20, right? And that's why I'm sharing my age, and just to say that wherever you are in your journey, it will happen when it's supposed to happen. And all this does is just providing an awareness and a thought that will land again, will come to you at a different time. It could be 5 years from now. It could be tomorrow that it will land in a conversation and say, because the dots have to connect, right? You have to say, oh, that's right. now I'm understanding this better. So just the awareness of it. And that's why I love you. You are so, Elizabeth, just free. And I think you've always been like that. Maybe you have different levels of freedom, but I've always remembered you like that, even in our early years of this journey that we're on, right?
Yeah, it's different levels and layers for sure. And of course, like in the context that you all hear me and meet me and see me is like kind of in my professional world, like there's certain areas in my personal life where not as much, and constantly working on it a little bit differently. Yeah. So, all right, give us the title and the premise of the new book.
So, the title of the new book is called "Where Did You Go?" And it was the question that I asked. And actually, I'm also reading this book for anyone. Like, this is not about my book. This is about educating the world, Elizabeth.
So that for people listening who can't see, the other book she's holding up says what is real.
Is real.
The unfinished quest for the meaning of quantum physics. Just some light reading.
Some light reading, and for anyone else who wants to expand their knowledge on any of this, the Holographic Universe as well. That is a classic book. And Michael Talbot, who wrote it, actually died really young, about a year after he wrote it.
Wow.
So I always, Elizabeth, I always say, please don't, I want to be alive. Like when, like I'm giving birth to a body of work that I'm really proud of. I'm like, I'm not done. I'm more. Don't take me away. But so I'm constantly reading. So just to and one more, quantum consciousness. I have like 2 copies of this, one in my office and one at home. It's called Quantum Consciousness, The Guide to Experiencing Quantum Psychology by Stephen Walensky. One of the most unread books that I've been so impressed. I found it by accident on Amazon, and it's truly incredible. The world is moving into more of a quantum approach, not only in our technology, but our way of understanding and experiencing the world. So me writing the book, it's not just about people finding and reading the book. It is about them asking the questions, the bigger questions, so we can find the bigger answers that we need. And one thing I'm going to say is that every time we are understanding the universe will change. And there will be another reality underneath that reality that we will then go and understand. That's called evolution. Yeah. I have chills whenever I think about that.
It gave me the biggest chills when you said that.
Elizabeth, it's incredible. So for me, I did not write this book for my own career, for my own betterment and success of my career, of what I do for a living. Actually, when I started thinking about writing this book, I felt I was living in a duality. I was teaching only a part of my journey, which was the first book, the second first, the life reentry model that I created. I was teaching that, and I believed in that, and I lived my life through that. But there was this other layer, the quantum world. I had evolved into this new place, a new understanding of my life, of my kid's life, of what happened to my husband after he died, of what is death, and I was hiding it from everyone. I was like, no. I'm staying in the closet. Mm-hmm. And so my life was improving, and I was experiencing incredible things. I wasn't sharing. I started here and there, and I started writing, blogging about it. And then I started receiving emails from people who were very religious. And these emails would, for example, say, without an exaggeration, you're going to go to hell, mm-hmm. and you're going to suffer for eternity times infinity. Mm. And you're going to take all of your followers with you. And those messages have never stopped. They continue to be today. And this is how we started. Oh my God, my computer is about to restart. No. Remind me tomorrow. Okay. It's like my computer is about to restart, everyone. I'm sorry. So I hope I made it go away. So, people will have opposing ideas, and that's okay. We respect that. But for those who want to understand the world a little better, when my husband died in 2006, I was so afraid of the place that he went to. Elizabeth has slept with the lights on for months afterwards.
No
I
way.
was scared. If you had told me then that 12 years from now, you will be taking people beyond this reality, I would just laugh and say, no freaking way. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here. And the quest started then, and I read pretty much everything on, psychics and mediums and where what people believe. And then years went by, and I landed in the quantum world and the physics. And the more I stepped into that world, the less scary that world became.
Mm-hmm.
And the discovery of the book is that, and I'm smiling for everyone who can't see us, but the discovery of this book is that I went to find out about death, and I found life and creation.
Mm.
And there is no scary monsters and trapped spirits and darkness, and there is atoms and math and energy and light, and seeing this reality for what it really is actually frees you to become what you were made to be, to see the potentiality, the free will, the infinity, the infinite universe. I mean, so living in this place has allowed me to also make a lot of my dreams come true. And let me tell you, Elizabeth, and for everyone who's listening, you start to realize that, I can't say that I can do everything happen because I haven't grown to that place yet.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of believing, but pretty much a lot is possible. Yeah. And it just gets a little busy. That's all I can say. So organize your life, because we have to live in this reality, in this linear cause and effect space, unfortunately, even though we don't have to, we choose to be in this one place, one location, even though we're non-local. If I lose you, meaning if I lose your train of thought, just know that what you see in front of you and what you hold in your hands, whether it's a book or a phone, it is made this in the same way as nothingness is, just vibrating in a different speed.
It's so funny. This started for me. I remember actually exactly where I was. I was on the big islands of Hawaii, and I think it's called Wailua. I was walking out of my hotel, and I had this feeling. I've never been suicidal in my life, but I had this feeling of like really not wanting to be here. Here meaning like on the earth at this time, in that, not even in the particular place. I wanted to be in Hawaii. That was beautiful, but like in this reality, in this existence on this plane. And I remember feeling like I also don't have to be, but because I feel like I'm also somewhere else. And it was like, and then since then, because that happened in April of 2017, since then, just like so many different experience over like the last year and a half, 2 years of really actually feeling like I exist in more than one place, and that life is happening in like parallel realities.
You leap, actually. You can leap, and I know it sounds crazy, but there's a lot of explanation around this. You can change. I mean, you've heard of the Mandela effect. You can change your path, and you can leap to a different version of you with observation, with the observer effect. I mean, there's so much knowledge and so much discovery out there, and what you felt was your higher self, your consciousness being in multiple locations at the same time. And maybe it was busy doing something else somewhere else. And it's kind of, let's stop the observation here and switch off here so we can pay attention to that other location.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about it, I know. And it's going to take us a long time to get to that place. But I'm saying we, I guess there's a lot of guides around, but all I'm really asking for people is to consider the possibility that they can't hear and see everything there is around them.
Totally. I mean, 100%. I think about, I was writing about this recently. I didn't publish it, but I'm always so curious about, some of the experiences that prove something else has to be going on. And the one I was thinking about, there were two. Twice in the last 6 years, I almost got hit by a car walking. First one, I was in Manhattan, and it was as if I literally felt like a hand touched my lower back and literally almost like lifted me off the ground and nudged me out of the way. That was the first one. And then the other one was not long ago, a month or two ago, in the grocery store parking lot. And that was different. There wasn't like a hand, but it was like I was clearly paying attention to something else. There was no reason for me to switch my attention, and something just clicked me to my attention so I could like stop and not freaking get run over by a car. And it was like, there's just more happening than we could possibly see, feel, sense, touch. But I'm curious for whether it's your opinion, your perspective, or there's science to support it. I have, in my experience, the more open I am to the possibility, not attached to being right or wrong, the more I start to, it's like life goes, oh, cool. You're paying attention. Let's show you. And it starts to like all these other weird things happen.
Elizabeth, synchronicity is one of the most extraordinary things in one's life. And it happens all the time. And I want to give you an example. A couple of days ago, my first book went temporarily. It's not temporary anymore. It's gone out of stock because it's being re-released in May with a new book. So I'm on Amazon and I'm texting my husband. I'm being remarried. So for anyone who doesn't know, Eric, my new husband, my husband in this reality. I do have different ways of explaining these things. So I'm telling him, honey, that's so strange. My book is out of stock. The television in that moment in time, this just happened 2 nights ago, says this product is out of stock at the same time. Okay. For everyone who's listening, I have thousands of examples like this. Yeah. This is just the latest. And here's the chances. It wasn't even a common word. This was out of stock. And I look up and I text him back and I say, you're not going to believe what just happened, because you have to validate, you have to share it with someone.
Yeah.
There are so many things. I mean, we can't hear the sounds that are happening right now. Our ears can't get to that. We can't see. So the light is being translated into an image. And for everyone who's listening, if you go into Google the holographic principle, you will see what that is all about. Look at the holographic principle and the holographic universe as it's not a metaphor and it's not a metaphor. So it's kind of in the middle, because we don't have the words to truly describe how our reality is made. So the scientists are looking for a close representation of what they're seeing. So this is basically a hologram that we are projecting from a deeper reality. And I'm just going to let that just land for everyone. So when I was discovering all these things, I'm like, what? People have to know. People have to understand. And yes, there's a group of people that know. We have a lot of peers and a lot of people who are reading stuff like that, and they're living their life from there. But there's millions of people who have no understanding of this reality, of what this is made of, that we know of. And it's a shame, and it makes me very sad, actually. It's one thing for someone to choose not to look at this, and I respect that, just like we said. Another thing is for people not to know about this.
Right. Yeah. And, this is a lot of the direction that the show has taken, that I've just kind of like you, I just let my work guide me. It's like that being in the relationship with the idea and with the work that wants to happen, and just going, all right, show me, is just having conversations like this, presenting things to people for their consideration so they could either take it or leave it. Because if there's something that a lot of people can agree on, it's that the education we receive is so inadequate. So many inadequate is like the kindest, most mild way I could possibly put it. It's inadequate. It's incomplete. It's inaccurate in so many ways. Like, we talk about social justice a lot on the show. Like, so much of the history we learn, like in the US, is just, it's lies. It is straight up lies. And so the foundations So yeah, and then you're coming in here being like, by the way, it's all a hologram. So of
It's all a
course
hologram.
some people are going to be like, what is this bitch talking about?
Yeah, they're gonna say, well, they're gonna call me the names they've already called me, right? So
Yeah.
there's a a large group of people that say, oh my gosh, I've been looking for this forever, and there's another large group of people that will say, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, like, what are you saying? This is all crap, and you're taking science and you're maneuvering it and changing it, and
Right.
so what I did was I gave the driving privilege to the reader of my book. And because there's so many books about theories, and I could write, such a student, I could sit and write 3 books on just what I discovered.
Yeah.
By just saying, here's the quote from this guy, here's what this guy said, and just leave it at that, and it would have been a great book. But what I've done is basically saying, now here's what we discovered, here's what's out there, now here's how you can experience it. And I gave the result, whether this book is a success or not, to the reader. And I let go. And I said, I am ready. And now, as I'm saying this to you, Elizabeth, I'm realizing what a big surrendering that was, as I'm really literally speaking to you right now. Because the book is only, 2 weeks, 3 weeks old. Like, everything is just still happening. And I said to the universe, I am surrendering. This is what I've discovered. This is what I know. This is how I experience it. And this is what happens to the people who have experienced it through this book. And it's up to you what happens next. It's not up to me anymore. And it's been extraordinary and amazing, and people are experiencing things, but it could have been completely different. It could have all gone wrong. Yeah. And I said, you're going to be okay, because you did this from wanting to educate, and from wanting to be able to experience their own experiences, and to have their own say into this journey. So I wanted them to become the experts. I wanted them to go to their neighbor and say, you know what I just experienced last night? Yeah. Because that's the only way we evolved, Elizabeth.
I love this so much because it shows that it's also possible to graduate from the age of the guru, where we're super attached to the external authority. And we talk about that a lot on the show too. Like always thinking someone knows better than you do, or just taking the rules or the prescription or the doctrine and not questioning it. So again, even out of context of this conversation, that's one of my biggest values in all of my work, is to go, you have to try it on for yourself. You have to feel it out, see if it resonates for you. And I just want to commend you for taking the time to go, it's up to you. Because I can't, and you and I have also worked with we've had some similar teachers and mentors over the years. And I have found, and I might get some flack for this, being a coach, mentor, guide myself, I don't hire them anymore. And a lot of people go, if you're a coach, you have to have a coach. I don't anymore. I will only work with people who are more like healers and facilitators, who are doing what we're talking about here, facilitating you having your own awakenings,
in
realizations,
your own journey.
Experiencing your own journey. Yeah, instead of going,
here I am the expert and I'm the guru, and you are going to listen. And people who treat me like that, I'm actually very uncomfortable. Yeah. I don't want it's a very uncomfortable place to be. Yeah. All of a sudden to be seen like that, because that's not how I identify myself. No. At all. And I know you don't. Like, it's how could maybe if I was Jesus, or even Jesus didn't identify himself like that. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I was, I don't know, Buddha, I don't know who I would have to be to identify as this guru. But the real gurus would never identify themselves as that. I really believe that. Yeah. And even so, I wonder if you get this as well. People will still project that. I had someone just went ham on one of my YouTube videos a couple of weeks ago and was like, you think you're God? And I'm like, I very specifically do not, but whatever. It's funny you say this, because there was a woman a few days ago who said to me, you're going to be punished for telling people to listen to you instead of God.
And where have you ever said that?
And, oh my gosh, it's amazing. Actually, I'm smiling. I'm sitting here laughing, smiling, because it's amazing. That's what I'm saying. The opposing worlds are going to be there, and you have to smile and laugh at it and say, wow, that's definitely a reality that is not being projected from my eyes.
Yeah.
This is a reality that's being projected by someone else, and I respect it. And I actually have a lot of, someone was sharing about this, this not being the Bible. So Christina, your book is not the Bible. I obviously.
You're like, I know.
And Elizabeth, I have to tell you the most fascinating thing of all. Just, how we all kind of try to figure out what are going to be the obstacles and the barriers. This was not one of them. Like, I never thought for a minute that anyone would think this is the Bible. But many people are saying to me, this is not the Bible. You do not read this. You need to go to the Bible. And I was like, what is that? What is that? What is the explanation of that? And I think, and I actually respect people's foundational beliefs because they rely on them for their joy and happiness. So anyone who's listening to this, these are not haters. They are just making sure that you don't take away their safety guard.
Oh my
you
God,
don't
I love that.
take away what they believe in, because when you do that, you make them feel afraid.
I need to really overemphasize this because I hate this culture of calling anyone who disagrees with you or has a dissenting opinion a hater, or treating them with like dismissing them or in a condescending way. This just feels very respectful, respecting people's foundational beliefs. And it literally goes back to the first thing you said about like, we have different beliefs, different belief systems.
And I go out and I share these different beliefs because actually I wasn't aware how opposing people were until I saw it. So I think it's important that people see the differences in belief. Then once I sit down and I share with my friends, oh my God, this is incredible. Like, I am blown away by how much it is. Not that it is there, that how much of it is, but then I start to understand and process that this is coming from a place of fear. This is actually, a woman explained this to me, Elizabeth, very, very well, because I said, tell me about what you're saying, because she was afraid that I was going to go to hell. And I mean, this is multiple. This is not the same example. These are multiple people saying the same. And I said to her, tell me about your experience, why you think this is wrong. And she said, all I know, and this is what she said to me, and this is public on Facebook. All I know is that when I found God, I saved myself. And I found peace. And I had chills saying that. But because how dare I or anyone else, Elizabeth, try to take that away from that woman?
Mm-hmm.
And I about this. That is right for her.
Yeah.
And that is sacred. That is, we let that be. And I say, thank you for sharing this with you. And she said to me, thank you for letting me share.
Yeah. And listen, I am on that. I am with that too. I am a firm believer in God. I always give people the space, like even in my current program, Empower 2019, I'm writing prayers every month. And then there's a little asterisk at the bottom that says, hey, sub out my invocation, sub out my amen at the end. Like, use the words, whatever resonates for you, like eternal consciousness, infinite intelligence,
universe,
whatever is going to work for you. But these things, it's kind of like you were saying, this comes to the oneness too, right? Like, if you want to believe in God and divinity, find how it merges with what you're talking about here in quantum physics and science too. Like, that's if that's the experience you want to have, then have that experience, like we don't have to be, everything doesn't have to be black and white. We don't have to be throwing babies out with the bathwater all the time.
And I didn't write this book for people who believe in something.
Right.
I wrote this book for people who didn't know what to believe in.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a difference. And
that's cool.
And then even to them, this is just a version of what they could believe in. This is just one person's experience and processing of the data and the discoveries that are out there. Then they can take that. And what I want people to do is create their own version of reality. And then, Elizabeth, what a beautiful world this will be.
This is really comforting to me to hear you say that. Like even that phrase, like create your own version of reality. Because did you grow up with any religion?
Greek Orthodox. Um,
Yes.
as traditional, and I talk about this in the book. I say I grew up in a small town in Greece where everyone believed in the same God with no variations of a religion of any kind. There was just one version of religion. And I remember going to church and listening to the priest, and the Greek Orthodox Church, you can't understand what they're saying when they're in church. For me, it was a very unexplored belief system that I was told to believe in this, and then there was no explanation as to why, what. And I grew up like this for 18 years. I lived there, grew up in Greece. My first language is Greek. So I am Christian, I'm baptized. Like I'm not here to, I believe in God, but I believe in a version of God that has created math and is intelligent. And if we believe in the observer effect, there is something called the observer effect for everyone. It's very simple, actually. And if there's one thing you're going to take away from this book, is that whatever we observe, we alter. There is only one reality, and that is subjective. There is nothing else but a subjective reality. And so Einstein used to say, and I love that, I would hate to believe that the moon is not there if I'm not looking at it. So this reality is here because someone is observing it to be here. Now, there must have been some kind of an observer, like the first observer that observed this reality into being. You want to call it God? You want to call it human? You want to call it consciousness? You want to call it the universe? You want to call it multiple, like infinite? It doesn't really matter. The fact is that there is some intelligence that is mathematical, energetic, vibrational, light-based, that exists, and we are all connected to that.
Yeah. This just makes a lot of sense to me. I can't wait to hear from our listeners to hear how it's landing for people. But the thing I was going to say is I was raised Roman Catholic. And one of the things that I heard a lot, because it was always my nature was always to be curious and inquisitive and to always align with what felt right and true for me, even as a kid. And something that my mom would say to me all the time is, you can't just pick and choose. You can't just take the parts you like and let go and not prescribe to the things that you don't. And I'm like, but I can, and I do.
Free will.
And that is ultimately, even though I didn't have the context or the understanding of it, I kind of was always oriented towards creating my own reality.
And choosing. And Greg Braden, and people need to read The Divine Matrix. Greg Braden is an extraordinary teacher and writer, and he explains things so well. There's choice. He calls them choice points, and we choose, and we choose a new universe, a new reality, a new timeline, a new version of whatever it is that is happening in front of us. And it's very hard for people to believe that, especially for people who have experienced tragedy, loss, abandonment, abuse, rejection,
oppression.
The question I get is, are you saying, Christina, that I chose this, that I observed this to creation? And that's a very, very fair question that people ask. And I've asked it myself. Did I choose to experience the loss of a child and a husband at such a young age? And I feel like it gives me, because of my own tragedies, it gives me the absolute right to turn around and give the responsibility back to the observer, back to the creator, and say, what if I can create my reality? What does that look like? And if I have created something that is not great, there must have been a reason for choosing that at some deeper level somewhere. And there's many things I don't know and I don't understand, and we're not supposed to.
This is why I'm comfortable having you on the show and comfortable having this conversation with you specifically, because it's all an inquiry and there's a lot of you admitting, I don't know. And again, not preaching to people, right? Like, you're not going to be the person saying to someone who just had some tragedy, well, your soul chose that and everything happens for a reason. Like, that shit is wildly offensive and inappropriate. But you're just over here going, what if? And there were points, and I mean, in your previous body of work was all around grief. There were points where people are ready to ask those questions and where they're not. Maybe they're never ready, but I'm also hearing you really say there's also not a right or a wrong either. There's literally just whatever you decide.
And I think, well, I think it is, I think there is some kind of, what's the best way to say this? And it unsettled me at first. Like I was like,
it is unsettling.
It is unsettling. How did I create such tragedy in my life? I mean, and so early. It's tragic. It is tragic. And I know so many listeners here and my audience, they're people with the most tragedies in their lives, multiple tragedies in one life. And I think that, you know, at a deeper level, at a higher level, higher self level, I think grief is an evolutionary experience. And in many ways, grief is love. And losing someone is not necessarily, well, first of all, I think I have to say to people, I don't believe, I'm going to say this and it's going to land however it's going to land. I don't believe death is only real in this reality.
Yeah.
In outside of the third dimension, and I'm saying this from a more of a scientific place, time is not real. We have created time and we observe time. So we have to live our life in a linear kind of way forward. When we step outside of this body and outside of this existence, then we have access to the people we're supposed to have lost. And that's I want to say it's a fact, but it's a possibility.
Thank you. And that, again, that is why we can have this conversation here. Yeah. And I could feel okay about it and not worry about that I'm going to have to delete it later because I've had plenty of those. Just that sentence. I'm not saying it's a fact. I'm saying it's a possibility. And you're offering it for each person to like take it, do with it whatever you want.
And like we said earlier on, whenever we think we discover what the universe is made of, the universe is going to change on us. Mm-hmm. So even if one day someone 100 years from now, Elizabeth, comes and says to the future version of you and the future version of me and says, we don't die. And actually, here's the proof, real proof. Like they have gotten proof, but real, like proof that you can't dismiss at all, ever. When that happens, whatever we think we know will ultimately change again. Mm-hmm. So that will be proven ultimately wrong again, because the universe, as it's being observed, as we're observing this conversation, whatever is happening here is being changed and it's being altered. So there's no right or wrong. It's just change itself moving across our lifetimes.
I love
it. We are observing it all at the same time.
I have a friend who was he responded to something I shared he was like, you think so much. And I'm like, there's a difference between thinking and observing. I was like, I am hella curious and observant. I am observing constantly. I'm not necessarily thinking about. I was like, why does it? I actually get pissed off when this person, he said this to me before. You think, you're overthinking. I'm like, I'm not thinking that. Like, I'm noticing. I'm paying attention, taking it in. Like, there's literally so much. There's a big difference. So I throw that out there in the context of this conversation for people listening, because again, like what we do, if you do mindset work or psychology or unconscious mind, those types of things, which are all valid and interesting, there is, though, a difference between thinking and observing, between taking something in and assessing what you're observing and thinking about it and analyzing.
Yeah, and considering things doesn't make you a good or a bad person.
Right.
You're just considering something. So and I don't know how, the notes on the podcast. I hope the other books that I've shared.
We'll link up to everything. We always do.
The other books, and because this is not about my version of this, it's about the reader, the listener, the observer, discovering the beauty of this. And I have chills saying that, the beauty of the universe. And it's a big adventure.
It's a
And
big
some of it will land well and we will be right for us. Some of it won't. And for some readers or listeners, they will find that they're exactly as they need to be and then don't want to change anything. And that's okay too. Just like
Yeah.
that woman said to me, this has helped me and I am where I'm supposed to be. And I don't need to change anything. And I'm just looking out for you because this is what I believe in and this is what has helped me. I don't want you to actually, someone said to me that people who are worried about your soul, they may just really be worried about your soul because of what they truly believe.
Yeah.
Like what if they're coming at me from a place of worry and real concern? But I'm open. That's the thing. If I can give you the advice to consider, I'm also open to considering what people are telling me
Yeah.
about their version of reality.
Yeah, that's great. So it's funny because that Holographic Universe book, I think the first time I heard of it was in 2012. And I tried to read it and I just couldn't. And so you're making me go, oh, I want to pick it up now. But I was actually glad when I saw that you were writing a book. I'm like, oh, I could read Christina's. I don't have to read the Holographic Universe. I can read Christina's book and I'll be way more receptive.
And you know, the Michael Talbot, he has such a magnificent way of exploring and articulating the concepts and the laws of what we know is the universe is made of. And he's just so charismatic. And he was born into this world to write this book. There is no doubt in my mind whatsoever. And then the Bible, if the Bible is right for someone, then I respect that. If whatever Buddhism, like mindset, not atheism, don't believe anything, it doesn't really matter. What matters is, are you happy with your premise and your foundation in your life?
Yeah.
You are. This is great. Awesome. Share with the world your happiness. If you're not happy with where you are, take some of these books, then listen to another podcast and listen to someone else and take their books and then go on an adventure of your own. Test some things out. Like Elizabeth, like you said, like you ask people to move their bodies to experience things. The same as like go and experiment. I guess the word for our chat today is about being open to experimentation when what you already have in your life is not working for you anymore.
Yeah. And that has been one of the most valuable things in helping me to surrender and to release when I need to and move on and trust, is that things, like literally the only constant thing is change. So like you're saying, as soon as we observe something, it's changing. And so if I'm attached to something needing to work the way it used to work, that's actually going to cause me suffering now in the present. And the biggest example that actually comes to mind for me is my body. Like, there was like something just happened for me like after 30 and I changed a lot of my habits too and my lifestyle changed, but and even now like approaching 35, like there's just things literally just don't function and operate the way they used to. So I need to be open to things that are going to help me function optimally now. Like even like some supplements I started taking, these ketones that I take, and a couple of years ago, I would have like looked down my nose at that and been like, I don't want to supplement. I'm going to eat all whole foods and all natural. But now I'm like, you know what? Like I have tons of inflammation in my body. I keep getting injured and I'm slow to repair. Like I just need to freaking function, y'all.
Ketones are great, actually. They make me feel very hungry when I take any of those. But I think that, and the way you said it, 2 years ago, it would have been a different choice. Yeah. 2 years later, this is it. And 2 years from now, we don't know because we haven't gotten there.
Totally.
I have said to me, Christina, you give us so much hope and, to change and reinvent ourselves in our life, but you don't know how it feels to be 80. And I respond to that, or 70 or 60 or 50. Mm-hmm. And I say, well, you're right. I don't know. I really don't know. And I can't pretend to know. All I know is that this is what I have found and what I've experienced and what has worked for me. And it really has. And to share what has worked for me is why I write these books and why I teach my classes and why I put myself out there. And I have to say, I was talking to someone yesterday for one of those retreat places to go and teach there. And she said to me, are you an introvert? I said, yeah. Actually, me stepping on stage and writing and not promoting is fun. Writing and being out of the world and doing this is actually not easy at all. But it is my responsibility. I feel like like, that's what I'm choosing to do right now
Mm-hmm.
for everyone. And I know you are too, with this podcast and with your work that I love and admire, and the way you move, Elizabeth. And I just want to say, I notice your body of work, and you are impacting the world in such a unique way. It's either whether our little bubble of the world doesn't include multiples of Elizabeth, and they're out there somewhere. I just haven't come across them. But from my perspective and my point of view, you are a true unicorn, and you are living your life in such a unique way, and it's being noticed and respected.
Thank you.
Tremendously. Like, I see
Appreciate
you
that.
move, and I want, like, look, I know you can't see me, everyone, but like, I want to move like that. Like, I see you.
Yeah. Thanks.
I see you, Elizabeth.
That was funny. That was one of the things that I want to come back to you, but I will say this because you just made that comment. In December, when I was promoting my Power 2019 program, I was not planning on doing an embodiment challenge. That was literally one of those little ideas, one of those little drops that was not a plan. I had that idea on a Wednesday, and we started it on the Monday after. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to post these movement videos. And it was uncomfortable, but it's just what I do. And kind of like you're saying, like, okay, I'll just do the thing. And you're right. It's like all these messages from people and what it sparks for people and what it gives people permission for their own experimentation and exploration. Like, it's really the only reason for me to do anything ever. But then I decided publicly, going into the year that I was going to do it 333 out of 365 days this year as like a personal challenge, but also as a long-term experiment. A longer term experiment to go, what would happen if I just post a movement video on Instagram every day in my own life and the people who are responding? And we'll see. It's been really fascinating, but we only have a few minutes left.
And it's freedom. It's about freedom. And I think that's how we started this conversation. It's about, I said, surrendering. I guess, what would happen because I saw this book as me coming out.
Yeah.
That's it. It was like, because before this book, I talked about brain science, and my life-changing work is doing so well. How dare I create something that could shake that in any freaking way? Who do I think I am? I worked so hard for that work to be there, and all of a sudden,
it's like, you finally have some stability. Let's shake it up.
I'm good. I don't need to come up with anything else. But surrendering, as you say, I'm surrendering to this everyday experience. I'm surrendering to coming out of the closet and sharing my beliefs about life and death. And what's the worst thing that can happen?
Yeah. Yeah. Over Christmas, I actually one night, I was crying to my dad. I'm like, I'm so weird. If I told people half the shit that happens to me, they think I'm like sobbing. My dad's like, that's not weird. Like, everyone has their own things that they think or judge are weird. Like, it was really funny. He was sweet. So I'm pumped to read your book. I was saying to someone else earlier today, typically I don't read people's books before I interview them because I want to ask questions that aren't going to be the same, like, rote questions that everyone who has read the book is like, so in chapter 7.
I know. I get that a lot, by the way. Plenty of interviews like that. So,
But what I'm curious, I mean, I know it's still new, so you might not have enough of a sampling of responses yet, but this has been one of my favorite things to ask authors recently. Yeah. When we write a book or we put a body of work out into the world, there's like the part that's like our tender favorite part, right? Maybe the part that means the most to us, that we think might have the biggest impact. And then there's always some things that emerge as way more impactful than we could have anticipated. Are you having that yet? Or is it like...
Yeah, we're getting, Elizabeth, we have a group that's growing by 100 every few days, like literally just growing. It's a brand new book. We have about 500 people in there, and the experiences that people are having. And here's what's happened. At first, people showed up because the book is so experiential. I mean, it's very well written, and I'm very proud of that. And I had a great team around me to make it. People have written to me and said, we can't put it down. And that's what I wanted. But once that part was done, so we got that in the beginning. So then the experience, the step that first step comes in, and I was holding my breath. Actually, I was literally saying, I don't know what's going to happen. That started to come in, and people are I mean, I'm going to say it as it is. They're having the most out of this world experiences and connecting with the people they've lost. We have mothers who lost their children, Elizabeth. We have spouses who lost their partners, mothers who lost fathers, sisters, brothers, best friends. And we also have people who just want to explore that world because their life is not what they want it to be, and they haven't lost anyone close. This is much bigger than death. It's about creation and looking at your life in a different place. So to answer your question, it's my soul is so happy. That's what I said. Don't take me yet, because I don't think I could ever experience it. I said to one of my posts that my family had a few things to say about that. I said that I was going to, if this book makes it, whatever money I make from this book, I'm going to give it away. Elizabeth, I can tell you the experience of this book. I can't keep the money from the book. I can't. The stories I'm receiving, the sharing of the people's reconnection, experiencing, creating new memories with the people there is nothing else. And that's what I said, I don't think my soul could ever feel more than this. And I am just grateful for having the courage to step out.
That's what it is. The freaking courage.
Just like your dance, every day, stepping out and moving and showing up in people's lives and Instagram windows. And that for me, I think the surrendering and then surrendering and then seeing the positive response, surrendering. And then of course I have the other side, but I'm actually grateful for the opposing because the more change we're bringing, the more opposition is going to take place.
Yeah.
That's a good sign. I do see it as a good sign.
Yeah. And it sounds like you have a healthy relationship to it. So is there anything, we have like 3 minutes left here. Everything links, all the other books you mentioned, your book, website, groups, all that stuff goes in the show notes. People don't have to worry about that. But anything I didn't ask you that you want to touch on or share before we sign off here?
What's next?
Yeah, so what's next?
What's next? I am going to share this, and I think it's very fitting as the end of our call here, our podcast. I'm writing fiction.
Cool. Oh, yeah. That'll be fun.
And this is the first time I'm actually really, this is not about changing the world. This is about my dream.
Does that feel so freaking good, by the way?
What did you say?
Does that feel so good, by the way? I
can't tell you. I am full of joy. Like my body, my DNA, like I am like blissed out with the experience of this book, with writing fiction next and whenever it's going to come out, probably 3 years from now or something. But the reason why I'm sharing this is that the moment you surrender, you then start to choose from yourself and what it is that you want to do. And I know you teach this very well, Elizabeth, and this is what I want everyone to take. The more we understand our reality, the more that reality can give back to us.
Totally. And so as we wrap up, I'll share one more synchronicity with you, since you geek out on that as well. We just started at the day that we're recording this is a Tuesday, and Monday, yesterday, I released all the content in my Power program on surrender and release. So I was just doing the video lesson, the practice, the mantra, I let go of all that no longer serves me, and the prayer, like everything of and or related to surrender, I literally posted yesterday. And that's been so much of this conversation. So just like, this is what I love about synchronicity. It's just like reinforcing. Yes. It reinforces,
everything we talked about. It's the proof. And the brain needs that proof.
And I get that it's intangible, that some people might not want to accept synchronicity as proof. They might want to explain it away with coincidence, confirmation bias. And that's fine. But that is not how I roll.
No, and synchronicity, when it happens to you, that's why it has to happen to you.
Yeah.
It's your own proof, and nobody can doubt it, because you ultimately doubt it as time goes by. You say, did that really happen?
Yeah.
So people who have experiences with the book, they come back to me 2 days later, did my mind create this? And in the book, we say your mind is going to tell you you made this up.
Yeah.
That it wasn't as incredible as, and you will doubt yourself. But the more the proof takes place, the more we actually enter a reality of, this is different than I thought. And maybe there is something here. And that's all. That's all there is.
Much. You're so magical. I know your daughter goes to college 10 minutes away from my house. So I'm hoping this means I actually get to see you soon.
Yes. And I might be in LA. I will be in LA. We're hoping to do a book signing in LA. It's not
good. I'll come.
It's booked. So I will let you know when that is booked.
That'll be awesome. Yeah. And everyone, again, if you want to come to Christina's, I remember for your first book, I was in San Diego and I came to that.
That's right.
Yeah, many years ago.
5 years ago.
That's 5 years ago. Damn. Love it.
5 years ago, Elizabeth.
So cool. So I love you're also one of my favorite people to just like follow and see how the work is evolving, because you're actively participating in that evolution process. Not everyone is. For me, I geek out on that. It's a fun thing to watch. So thank you as always so much. Everyone listening, I can't wait to hear from you. How did this conversation land for you? What's coming up? And as always, I don't need you to agree, but I do always request that you're just kind and considerate when you share. Whatever, you disagree all you want or love it, whatever, just, be kind. Be kind about it when you share your feedback and send us your messages. So we'll put all the links, like I said, show notes. You can find Christina. I love following her on Instagram. And that's that. So, of course, a total pleasure and an exciting conversation. And I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Something that we dream about, but many of us have never experienced, know? And so it does take that visionary, future forward, kind of childlike wish. I talked to my 6-year-old. I have a 6-year-old boy named Kailash, and he sometimes is like, he just doesn't get it. He's like, why is this? Why do, Black kids get shot? Why do, he just has all these questions. He's like, this makes no sense. Why do people own guns? He just has questions, like in this very innocent way that we all have that. We're all like, we have that future potential in us. We always did. And we just forget it, or it gets kind of beaten down. So coming back to that, I think, is a big part of those steps, and finding our allies, finding our sisters and brothers and friends who we can have these conversations with and be building the dreams and the visions with, because we're the ones, it's not, we can't wait. We can't say, oh, it's not my responsibility. It is.